Okay, we are live with Laura Kendrick. I am so excited to have her here. Laura is a brilliant copywriter, like so brilliant, and a prior pre-launch plan program student. Laura, thank you for being here. Tell everyone all about you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me, Brenna. I really appreciate it. So I'm a copywriter. My little copy house is Cheeky Copy, which I love the name of because why not be cheeky? I live in upstate New York. I've got two kids who I hope to God do not show up here at any time during this.
It's okay. We don't mind kids and dogs and cats. We don't mind animals or kids, so we're good.
I have had the odd VIP day where one of them skirts through totally naked, so let's try not to do that.
My son's room is used to be right back here, and I have like been on calls where I forget, and like, he gets up and like walks out in his underwear, and he's like, "Mom, tell him like sorry, I kept forgetting."
Perfect. At least mine are like little. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. At least mine was covered, but still, same effect.
yes. Oh, goodness.
Yes. So tell, and what do you do for clients?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We got talking about naked children and then we just lost track of everything. I specialize in launch copy. So writing the whole thing, sales page, the launch sequence, and now killer pre-launch sequences too. It's beautiful to have this whole thing tied together in this really streamlined and strategic way. That's been the like really integral like changing point. I'm using way too many big words. In all of this is to add that strategy that really fits together beautifully.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of leads us to the next part of the conversation, which is like, what made you decide that you wanted to join the pre-launch plan program? And it might be a little obvious, but can you expand upon that?
Yeah. So I mean, there's kind of this once you're in the copyland, like I know outside of copywriting, it can be like a sales page. Oh my gosh, like that's a huge thing. But once you understand it and you have this kind of flow and you work within that, whatever your framework is. And of course, there's shifts here and there. And launch sequences are quite similar, where it's very kind of it's it's an established asset, if you will. And so understanding how to put those together is really not that challenging for somebody who's been doing it for a while and has learned all of these things. But then there's this thing of this pre-launch that people talk about in these like hushed tones of like, they're supposed to happen. But every time I would kind of look into what people were talking about with a pre-launch, it seemed very vague and just like, oh, just whisper about it, or something to that effect. And I was like, I get it, but there's got to be something more. And then I learned about you, I think years ago now. I can't remember from who. I know that question's coming, but I can't remember where it was. But it was years ago now. And I remember thinking, like, she's onto something. And I really want to understand what it is that Brenna's doing. And getting into the program was like, that was the whole goal of like, I want to understand like really how to do a pre-launch, not this vague whisper into the, that little quiet, like, I'm gonna launch soon. That so many people do that, but it's not doing anything else other than saying you're gonna do it soon.
Right. I feel like with pre-launch, it's like you either have like that or you have like the like Amy Porterfield pre-launch that you're like, oh my gosh, I have to create three new lead magnets, have this huge masterclass, do a challenge. And I think that was the thing that I started to see too. Like, where is the, okay, no, it's not just like this quick aside, but it's also not this like huge momentous thing that like it would be so hard to even execute as
Mhm.
a team of one or a small team as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's funny, I had not actually thought about that, but you're right. And there's also, I feel like you get the Amy Porterfields, the Marie Forleos too, where they're like they have these massive teams that they can do all of these things and they have a lot of people to support them. And they're also on these like clear cut cycles. But for those of us without the massive teams and where the cycle might have to fit into our lives a little bit more and it's not quite as clear cut, it's not quite as like I launched this program every this many months. It's really nice to have this framework that enables you to really start to fill the program beforehand, take that pressure off the launch, and in a really intentional way that fits into the whole picture rather than simply that just hush tone, I'm gonna do it soon.
Right. So, so once you joined and you were in the program, was there anything like, what did you think about it? And was there anything that maybe surprised you? I actually haven't asked this question, so if nothing surprised you, don't worry about it because I think it's the first time I've asked it.
Your son coming out of the bedroom? No,
Yeah.
just kidding. It what surprised me? I think well, it didn't necessarily surprise me, but I really appreciated the conversations and the work around the buyer awareness journey, and bridging that gap from where they come in to where they're ready to buy. I really loved the way you put that out there. It was really accessible, and it was just, I mean, all of these things as a copywriter and knowing, buyer psychology, I knew these things, but it really put it into this really lovely concrete methodology. And like I mean, you could just see it where it's like, oh yes, that all makes sense. Like it just pulled a ton of different ideas and put them into one space, and now I can see, okay, we're walking down this path in this really beautiful way. So I that part I really that surprised me, and it was really really nice.
Is there anything else, or like once you were in the program, can you describe like what it was like for you?
I really actually love the community that spouted up in our cohort. It and a number of them I'm still in touch with now, which has been really amazing to kind of grow that network, those friends. And it was really fun to be on the calls. It wasn't quite as, we've all been in masterminds and programs for the most part where it's like you only get this amount of time, but it was much more free flowing and it was much more community oriented where your voice was really helpful and amazing to learning and creating, but then also enabling other people to kind of step in and say the things was really supportive and wonderful too, because sometimes we're looking for the insight of somebody who's not a professional marketer. We want to hear how it plays off of somebody who is in a different space. And it's like, oh, I see it this way, but they see it that way. And it was amazing. It was just a really great, great environment.
Yeah, and I want sometimes I originally when I thought about like showing copywriters this process versus having business owners, and I was like, should I do separate cohorts? And I'm like, no, I actually like this beautiful combination that we get when we have, some copywriters that are in there learning about how to do this for clients and themselves. And then we have the business owners and they see how it all helps each other and actually, like you said, build this really great community. And two, as someone who facilitates, like I'm not the one that has all the answers, right? Like
Right.
someone else. And I think that's one thing I loved. And we had such a smart group that like it was like, okay, I see it this way. And then someone would be like, well, but have you thought about it this way? And I'm like, oh no, I haven't thought about it this way. And that's what I love about keeping and having the pre-launch plan program in a group coaching container, if you will, because of, like you said, we learned so much hearing from other people and we hear questions that we didn't even know we had. And we're like, oh, yeah, that's super helpful.
Yeah, what lands for me doesn't necessarily land for somebody else. And it's really nice to see those, especially honestly as a copywriter, because I'm not writing for me. I mean, yeah, I'm not writing for me, I'm writing for other
Right.
clients. So to hear how it lands with the audience, so to speak, is really amazing. And the questions that pop up from them and the kind of visibility that they see. I think in that group container too, that when somebody asks that question, it gives that permission to be like, oh, right, I have that question too. Or I think in our group, there was one that, oh my gosh, there was some email we were talking about, and you had said, like, oh, I just sent this out, but you guys didn't get it because you're in the program. And all of us were like, oh my gosh, we want to see this. And it was just this really wonderful, like, energy and fire that came from it. And none of us would have even been aware of that example had someone in on that call not asked a particular question where that email kind of ran parallel or was an example of that question. It's like, oh, wow, isn't that amazing? The insights that come out when a lot of brains are working on problems in different ways.
Yep, I agree more. It's always two heads are better than one, and
Yeah.
a bunch of smart people in a group is even smarter. So now, when after like going through the program, how do you see this working for you in terms of how you're helping clients?
That is a great question. And I was actually just playing on my website today. And just about to repackage everything because I had in the past had things like piecemeal, but now I get to say, I really only want to work in this big picture way because it's so holistic and it works so effectively. And it's this beautiful strategy that if you do it piecemeal or if you have different people writing it, it might not, like all the knots might not tie together. But if we build it all at the same time, oh my gosh, it's like surfing the perfect wave. Like, I don't know. I guess you're in California, so I start thinking about surfing. But so it really created that beautiful thing. And I just love I can't think of a better way to say it right now, but kind of the promise I can give clients, but it's not really a promise. It's that like this can happen is that idea that if all of these pieces are together, that the launch is way easier, the work is less kind of confined to this really stressful point. You're more likely to fill the program. Like I just love how it all works together and to be able to say that I can create that and back it up and understand all the strategy behind it rather than doing that. Well, I can write a sales page, a launch, and then there's this thing called a pre-launch where we just kind of say the stuff, but it's all instead it is all tied together, which is amazing.
Yeah, I know. I got to the point when I was writing launch copy, I was like, okay, if we're not doing a pre-launch, like I can't. And I don't even do write launch copy anymore, but for myself, but like I help people, but I don't do it as a service for most of the time. And when it is, you start once you kind of go through this process and you're like, oh my gosh, you see like how important it is and how much that gets left out without a pre-launch. And I think that's the other thing that people don't even realize. They create this like sales page and they put so much thought into it, but really trying to communicate all of the things that we talk about in pre-launch would be virtually impossible to do in a launch once you kind of see the structure of it.
Well, and the thing is I think that people really are trying to talk about all those things in their launch and they're jamming it all into what, like 7 to 10 emails and a few social posts, like one or two a day where they're talking about this stuff. But in reality, people don't, I mean, we're all skimmers, so we're missing 90% of it as we're popping through. And you're just missing all the opportunity to really sink into people's brains and really get them to walk down that path. So I feel like at the end of the day, you're really leaving a lot of money on the table. I mean, to put it directly, if you're trying to cram all of this into that like 5 to 7 day launch container, it's just not an effective way to communicate. But if you can string it out and create that lovely path, then it's like, oh, that is an effective way to communicate. So
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. I should have asked you this at the top, but was there any, were you hesitant about joining the program at all?
no, you were like on my radar for years. Like I kept actually, oh, I know how I finally got in. I was in another program with somebody who works with you doing your funnels. And she was saying, I work with Brenna. And I was like, oh, I've been meaning to get into Brenna's program, but I can't figure out when it opens. And she was like, okay, sign up for this. And it was the behind the launch. She's like, sign up for the behind the launch and that'll just get you all the way in. I'm like, oh, great. So she was the one who finally made me like get on the list so I knew when it opened. But I mean, I think it was a couple of years maybe of like periodically checking your site because I'm the like fast buyer and I would just check the site of like, when's the next one coming up? And wouldn't, would get lost on website land and wouldn't know, or there was like a wait list and for some stupid reason I didn't put my name on it or something, like some like weird moment. And so, no, I had no resistance. It was like one of those things of like, I was waiting.
And that's what you want, right? It's what we really want is people that are waiting and excited to buy the program. So, so if anyone is listening and they're like feeling maybe they do have a hesitancy or they're not sure, should I invest in this program? What would you say to them?
Yes. Just super simple. Yes. It's if you launch, it's a game changer because it makes it so much easier. Honestly, I can't state that enough, where it's no longer that crash in and it gives you permission and space, strategy, methodology, like all the things to actually have that like calm, planned out launch process so that you're no longer, running through the doors going, oh my God, I hope somebody buys. And going through the thing too, where what's the most people buy on the first or last day. So you have that like doors open rush, and then you're sitting there knowing that going, oh shit, like where are they? I'm gonna, this is not gonna happen. And then the last day stress of like, oh, the last couple of hours of people getting in and crossing your fingers at hope it happens. But with this, it changes all of that and it really creates ease. So it's, yes, get your butts in there, like do it because it'll change the whole thing for you. And it's not that whisper. It is actually a plan that is real and feels like, oh, I'm actually doing something with intention, not just, well, I'm going to open those doors soon. So get ready.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And hadn't thought about it quite like that too, where you have that spike, and it's like it kind of levels off the spike, right? Especially because you're getting hopefully pre-sales beforehand, depending. And then you're kind of going in, where you're hopefully leveling that out. So it's not this up and down mid-cart launch, like all the things that or mid-cart launch, I'm sorry, mid-cart, why can't I think of the word? Lull, the mid-cart lull that we all hate. Like it definitely starts to even out those periods of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Laura. Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. You can find me at Cheeky Copy in all the places. Instagram, I'll see DMs. I'm not the best at posting on Instagram. I'm gonna admit that right out of the gate, but I definitely am in the DMs all the time.
That's
The,
that's how I am.
I just put up a 9 grid and I'm like, the new, like, yay. But I'm also, you can find me at cheekycopy.co as well as the website. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'll see DMs there though as well. Also not active. I got to figure out LinkedIn. I haven't figured that one out. So there's
I always think I'm always like, I really should be on LinkedIn, but then I never do. I just say it. I don't actually do it. So, but
it's there. It exists.
well, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura, for being here. If you are thinking about the pre-launch plan program, we officially open up September 26th. The prices are going up on that day. So if you want to get in at the previous price, send me a DM. I will answer you as well. And we can chat about if the program is right for you. So thank you, Laura. I appreciate you and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.